We will start in just a moment. To everyone watching the replay, thank you. Please make sure to comment and tag us so we can respond after the show is over. Hello, and thank you for joining us for Sree's Sunday New York Times Read-Along. Our guest this morning is Pallavi Guha, a professor and author from Towson University in Maryland. My name is Neil Parekh. I'm the executive producer. I'll be the guest host today. Sree's Sunday New York Times Read-Along is produced by Digimentors in partnership with Scroll and Scroll Global, one of India's most important independent websites. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and our Digimentors website. Please like, comment, share, retweet, do all the things you do on social media to make sure people see this very important show. If you're watching on Facebook, press play on the video so we can see any comments you add. And make sure, regardless of where you're watching, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc., let us know where you're watching from so we can say hello to you at the top of the show. Last week, our guest was Raj Goyal, and we focused on efforts to pass a bell-to-bell ban on cell phones in school. We're continuing that discussion today, focusing on Howard County. They instituted a bell-to-bell ban, the kind that Raj was advocating for, starting March 3rd of this year. We'll also cover parents using generative AI to fight back against social media harassment and take a look at a newsroom that Pallavi manages called the Baltimore Watchdog. At 10 a.m., and I have to say I'm really looking forward to this segment, we will have a special guest join us to review the New York Times for Kids, the special print-only section from the New York Times. That guest is none other than my daughter, 11-year-old Emily. You can download a PDF of the New York Times for Kids from our website, but you have to do it before noon Eastern Time. We won't do a show next week, April 6th, but we will be back April 13th with Alison Kosik, a former CNN international anchor and business correspondent. She's the author of What's Up with Women and Money: How to Do All the Financial Stuff You've Been Avoiding. Sree's Sunday New York Times Read-Along is produced by Digimentors, the social, digital, AI, and events consultancy that Sree founded several years ago. Thank you to Muckrack for your longtime sponsorship of the show. We are looking forward to today's show. As you saw, we have several topics we'll be covering. The continuation of the idea to ban cell phones in schools, but also online social media harassment and how people are fighting back. One of the things that's also interesting is Pallavi Guha runs a newsroom staffed by Towson University students. So we'll take a look at the work that they're doing. And of course, as I mentioned, and it gives me incredible pride to mention that my daughter, Emily Parekh, will be joining us at 10 a.m. to review the New York Times for Kids. Please stay for that. It's going to be an interesting discussion. We did a little practice run or preview. I kind of gave her a sense of what how that might go, and she's got a lot of thoughts on a whole range of different issues. So we might keep on the Times for Kids, and the conversation might veer off into other directions. Let's go ahead and say hi to some of the folks who are watching, who've already checked in. Jonathan says, greetings from the East Village, where I'm not watching on my cell phone. Jonathan, thank you very much. Appreciate that. We also have Patricia watching from New York. Grace and greetings. Doug Levy opening up at 5:30 in the morning, and we appreciate you joining us every week. And I'm not surprised, Mom. I know you always love it when I guest host, but oh my God, how much are you going to love seeing your granddaughter on the show? I can only imagine how excited you are. And Patricia has a quick welcome to Pallavi already, so thank you. Ken Fisher watching from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Diane Stefani watching from Margate, New Jersey. Patricia gives an early welcome to Emily. Secret behind the scenes, she's still asleep. Asked her to, rustled her a little bit before I got ready in the studio. And my wife is on duty to make sure she gets up in time to join us. So I'm crossing my fingers, but I'm pretty sure she'll be here. She's excited as well. Paula is watching from Valdosta, Georgia. Paula helping with her new granddaughter. So happy that everything is going well with the family, Paula, and so thrilled. Paula's granddaughter was just born, I think Friday, so 2 days old, and she's helping watch the older granddaughter. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us, Paula. We really appreciate it. Again, we have a great show for you today. I want to take a moment and look at what's in the New York Times first, just the front page of every section, and then we'll come back and bring on our guest. Just as a reminder, our guest is Pallavi Guha. She is a professor at Towson University and an author. She will be talking about the bell-to-bell cell phone ban in Howard County schools, where her daughter is a student. So we'll look forward to that conversation and much more. So let's go ahead and turn our attention to the paper. Today's edition, we'll just take a look at the front page of every section, just to give folks a sense of what's going on. And of course, if there are any audio issues, please make sure to let me know in the comments. So the big thing to focus on, aside from anything else, is this huge investigation that the Times did, the partnership, America's hidden role in the Ukraine war. I had a chance to take a look at this online yesterday, and it is a very detailed account of how closely the United States worked with Ukraine in the early going, but also how that partnership evolved, and obviously now how that partnership is unraveling under President Trump. Colleges apply police tactics on protesters, tracking vandalism, major shift in schools' approach to student discipline cases. And that looks like it's definitely in response to, they were already applying strong tactics, but with President Trump, it's become even worse, especially with Columbia University acceding to his demands, a $400 million extortion, effectively. We have a article here, silencing radio merely fortifies Great Firewall. And this is a reference to, electronically assemble a radio. So this is actually talking about Voice of America. Of course, our good friend and two-time guest, Steve Herman, is a former White House correspondent for Voice of America and has been all over the news lately about the impact of shuttering that incredible resource. There's so much going on, so much that President Trump is unraveling. And it's only been, 3 months now? 4 years. I'm not sure how we're going to do it. A quake hit Myanmar. Some see an omen for the junta in terms of a bad omen. And that's actually really interesting because my wife, Pam, who you may know, got a Ph.D. from the University of Washington, did her dissertation on the impact of earthquakes in Egypt and Turkey, and how those two regimes, authoritarian regimes, responded very differently. But earthquakes have a huge impact on regimes around the world. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Musk's millions and liberal anger clash in Wisconsin's pivotal judicial election. Musk is interfering in that election and has a lot to gain based on the results. So we'll just take a quick look on what is in the rest of the paper, and then we'll get to Pallavi Guha. The New York Times for Kids. This is the special section. We will be focusing on that at 10 a.m. And again, a reminder that you can download the PDF from our website. If you go to digimentors.group/NYTReadalong, look for Pallavi Guha's show, and then find that link to download. You will really appreciate it, and definitely share it. Do have to do that before noon. Because that's when we have to take it down. So definitely encourage you to do that. We will leave that aside for the moment. Sunday opinion. Can't tell from the top half of the cover, but the bottom, the false promise of the medical freedom movement. When a young mother is diagnosed with cancer, she chose a perilous path to a cure. And it's no accident that RFK Jr. is figured prominently in this graphic. It's just awful what he's doing to health and human services. Sunday business, and I thought this design was really interesting when I was setting up the paper. Can't tell what the cover is about, but it's the longevity guru who wants to control everything. Brian Johnson is trying to biohack his way to eternal life. Now the Blueprint founder is facing a backlash over confidentiality agreements. Interesting, but just interesting design. If you look at the quotes and the way they set that up, very, very interesting. We have Sunday styles. It's the end of work as we knew it. You figure there was something, and we don't feel fine. It's kind of a play on the it's the end of the world as we knew it, and I feel fine. The Gen X career meltdown. And then there's also fallout from taking a sip of water. A Bikram yoga student vents online challenging a tradition and leading to a job loss. That's interesting. But end of work is definitely an interesting piece. Arts and leisure, again, with their full page photo, you can't tell what is going on. Bon Iver gets happy. Justin Vernon has made melancholy a hallmark of his band's music. It's a new album. Its new album is a reinvention. That's arts and leisure. And then book review, Righting a Wrong, inspired by a real assault case. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's new novel follows 3 women and their former housekeeper. And the name is familiar. I don't think we had them as a guest, but I think we may have talked about their book once before, but that's interesting. And then plus, Adichie talks about grief, art, and the writing of Dream Count, her new novel. I don't think we had them as a guest, but anyway. And then the New York Times Magazine, where do Nazi bones belong? 80 years later, Germany still struggles with how to answer that question. And a very stark cover, and definitely evocative of Hamlet in terms of holding the skull and speaking to it. There's also T Magazine, which we never review, never have time for. We should probably need to see if we can get the editor and do a special on T Magazine one day. But that's the paper for you folks, just to give a sense of what to expect, what we'll see later when we come back to it. Again, that New York Times for Kids, and that front page, the big partnership, America's hidden role in the Ukraine war. We will go ahead and welcome, say hi to a few folks who are watching before we bring on Dr. Guha, but I just want to give people that QR code. If you want to hit it with your screen, with your camera, you can download the PDF of the New York Times for Kids until 12 p.m., until noon Eastern time today. So definitely take a look at that. Okay, so with that review, we have a number of folks who have joined us. I'm going to just say hi to everyone quickly and then bring on Pallavi. Diane says, excited for you and your daughter's debut. Is it on New York Times for Kids? It is Emily's debut on the New York Times for Kids. As I mentioned earlier, she had joined a read along a few times when she was younger, toward the end of the show, just to say hi. But over the last few years, we've kind of upped our game a little bit more professional, and we've said, Emily, you can't really come on. She insists that she could be a guest for a whole episode, so we might have to explore that at some point. Deborah says hello from cloudy Fort Lauderdale. A new location, Starbucks. Can't wait for Miss Emily to join at 10. And of course, my mom says she's looking forward to it. Naomi, top of the morn from Drizzly, Rhode Island. Ron Thomas saying greetings. But Ron, you got to let us know where you're watching from. You could be anywhere. I know you travel so much. Jayanti Patel is watching from Gandhinagar in Gujarat. Good morning. Jayanti is watching through our partner Scroll on their YouTube channel. So thank you, Jayanti. He says hello and good morning. I know it's good evening for you. Deborah Kerr is tagging friends who might be interested in watching. So thank you for that. Ashwarya Lakshmi is watching. She noted the interesting collage earlier. Today, Jayanti says that India is celebrating Holi for both Hindus and Muslims. And of course, it's also the end of Ramadan. So Eid Mubarak to everyone who is observing. I know there was some debate as to when it would be celebrated, but whether it's today or tomorrow, Eid Mubarak to all who are celebrating. Let's see, Pradya Haldapur is watching, tuning in from Barcelona, traveling today. Pradya, make sure to let your kids know about that New York Times for Kids, and also the special special section. We'll do a clip of that later so people can watch. Deborah Bernick is watching. Hi from the Cherry Blossoms of DC. Deborah is a loyal customer of Emily's. I know she's looking forward, loyal Girl Scout cookie customer. I know she's looking forward to watching the show. Ron is in Dubai. Swati Ghosh is watching from Ellicott City. Jayanti says Nagpur is busy today as the PM is visiting RSS headquarters, PM Modi. So we will talk about that later, I'm sure. But with that, that's a long intro. You've waited long enough. Again, our guest is Pallavi Guha, professor and author at Towson University. You can find her on LinkedIn, Dr. Pallavi Guha. Please welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning, Neil. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be a part of the program, Sree's Sunday NYT Read Along. I've been following the program for some years now. And honestly, it was a dream come true. I've always wanted to be on the program. And I think that it was the cosmic
energy. Are we
recording?
Wait. I want to make sure we're recording this. Yeah, we are recording this.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. A dream come true?
Absolutely. I love the diverse guests that you get on the show, the topics. And last Sunday, when we connected, this is a topic that is very close to my heart as a parent as well as a researcher. So thank you again for having me. I thank you. Hi, everyone. Good morning for joining the show from coast to coast as well as from India. I know my family, my husband and daughter are watching this in some other part of the house. I know my parents are watching from India. On YouTube, I believe. And I see one of my friends here, Swati Ghosh from Ellicott City. Yeah, she's here as well. So yes, so I'm looking forward to this conversation on cell phone ban, social media harassment, and of course, Baltimore Watchdog as well. And I'm going to stay back on for Emily's debut with you.
That's great. But definitely, as folks are watching, make sure to press play on Facebook if you're watching on Facebook, because the video might have come through. I know Pallavi shared it with her friends as well on Facebook, but you have to make sure you press play, because if you comment just on the post, we won't be able to see it and put it on the screen. And certainly, Pallavi, if you see people that you know commenting, let us know. We'll give them a special shout out. Sure. Let's go and go right into the conversation that we want to continue from last week. Of course, we talked about a possible cell phone ban in New York schools. Howard County, where you live, just announced the ban in January, and it went into effect March 3rd, just a few weeks ago, banning all cell phones from schools, bell to bell. Tell us a little bit about what the response has been like over the last few weeks. I'm thinking parents, teachers, and students may all have differing ideas on how it's going.
Absolutely. And this academic year at Howard County, they started, kind of not using cell phones for kids, during instructional time, but then they still could use it during lunch and during hallways and others. So from March 3rd, they have this bell to bell, no use of cell phones or other personal devices unless it's kind of exempted because of IEP plans or special plans and so on. And I've been having a conversation as a parent and as a researcher as well with fellow parents, of course, in our household with my husband and with our daughter and other kids sometimes when we have this conversation. And it seems like the response is very like kind of poles apart. So last night I was at a celebration of a friend at Howard County, and I met several Howard County parents, and unanimously all the parents said that, oh well, we appreciate the ban, it's a great thing, it's good for the mental health of the kids, and it is also really a great thing to keep them focused. As far as the kids are concerned, they were like, it's okay, we'll get through it. But a complete ban is, I believe, not something they are still on board with. And part of me as a researcher, I feel that the word ban is problematic in a sense. So maybe if we could use another word which doesn't seem punitive, or which kind of gets the kids on board to comply with it, I think they might be more willing to be on board. The
Do you have
discussion has really focused on statistics showing how it impacts mental health of children, how it is not really good for during instructional time, they can't retain information and facts. All of those are great, but being a little more kind of creative and getting them on board as stakeholders would make things a little more smooth, I believe, and for parents as well to continue having that conversation.
any suggestions on what language might be more palatable?
I've been thinking about it, and I haven't come up with a particular word, but I would say mindful time. So kind of being
Okay.
mindful or being present time in during school. So that's why you don't use cell phones.
And how is the mindful time being implemented in terms of we've talked, some communities have used a yonder bag, for example. Some have like a parking lot where you have to slip your phone into a case.
Right.
How is it working in Howard County?
So when it first started, I heard from my daughter that they have pouches like kind of in each class, and either you put it inside your pouch or inside that pouch, or you just keep it in the bag. And right now it's more a monitoring thing, so you cannot take your cell phones out if the cell phone is taken out, and then there is like procedure. First time, it's taken. The administrators are constantly doing rounds, and sometimes they take away, and then I believe the next time they let the parents know. So that's how it goes. So it's more monitoring right now, and kind of looking, the administrators are on board with this and constantly surveilling
And as
who's
you can
using
see, I updated our ticker in real time to
it.
refer to mindful time and not a outright ban. Hopefully, it makes it easier for folks watching. I think for a lot of parents and for me in particular, our daughter, and we've agreed not to focus on cell phone policies when she comes on, because that's gonna take it to a whole different direction. She doesn't have a cell phone. She uses my wife's cell phone for texting, and she has a Chromebook and the phone, watching YouTube videos, which is a whole different story. But I would say that, as long as you can address the issues of safety, where you can reach your kids in emergency, where they can, reach out or text or something if something's going on. It's unfortunate, but just last week, Emily had a active shooter drill at school, and we are planning on doing the local police department, our precinct is planning on doing a session, a training session, a workshop for people what to do in an active shooter situation if you're in a public venue in a mall or something. We're thinking we want to find out whether it's appropriate to bring her to that, but this is the world we live in. I definitely lean toward the idea of restricting access to phones. I'm not coming down on the but I need to be able to reach my child. The other thing that we need to be aware of, and I was reading somewhere that for younger kids, especially if they have like Apple Watches and stuff, parents texting their kids throughout the day, checking in, asking how they're doing, which is a little bit much, I think.
I agree with you on that. And as a parent, I feel that, and someone who has been doing research on social media and technology as well, we need to give our children some space as well. And several times I hear from other parents and co-parents, oh, we never had a cell phone growing up and we were just fine. I just think that it's a little bit of a kind of a false equivalence here. You have given the kids now access to technology and phone, and now you're taking it away. So the conversation has to be much more around, well, how do you use this more mindfully, or how do you use this safely, rather than I didn't have it, we didn't have it, so you'll just be fine without the technology.
That's actually a really great point. And in fact, one of our viewers on Twitter, Anita Green, a loyal viewer, says, what I would like to see is a both and. When, where, and why we might use the tech. How can I use it to create instead of scrolling and observing? I feel the same with Chromebooks. It's not a babysitter or just for students to play games, watch videos, etc. So I think, teaching our kids more appropriate uses of technology. Certainly, I mean, we'll talk about this in just a moment, but I had a conversation with Emily last night. She and her friends are actually using Google Docs to write a book. They have a plan and they've been developing characters. They have a plot, etc. And she used ChatGPT to think about potential titles for the book. She gave a paragraph. Her teacher told her, don't upload the whole thing because that'll become part of the database, but upload a synopsis, and it gave different suggestions. I took it a step forward and used 2 other platforms, and then compared the different options and showed her how do you take it further, get the generative AI to give you more context as to why they chose those titles, etc. But there's a lot you can do with the technology.
And I agree completely with you. It's the same with my daughter when she has to do group projects. I have seen her, doing FaceTime with her friends. So it really comes in handy, or sharing Google Docs or sharing Google Slides. It does come in handy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to do a quick hello. Aloka Nyogi is watching from Hilltown in Dehradun, India. Thank you, Aloka.
Aloka Nyogi, she's my mother's friend. So
wow.
Hi, how are you?
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining. And then Asmita Bhatia is also watching. She says she's enjoying this conversation. Thank you. And Lalita V is watching from Kolkata, India. So
And
thank you.
hi, Miss Lalita. She's my husband's teacher, elementary school teacher.
Wow.
So I met her
Your friends and
last
family
summer. Yeah.
are showing up. That's great. Swati says she does also worry about the emergencies in school, so that makes sense. And my mom says that when parents were in school, there was a lot of safety around them. Now times have changed, as I mentioned earlier. We also want to give a quick hello to Mary C. Curtis, watching from Charlotte, North Carolina. She's a journalist herself and a former guest on the show. So, switching gears for a bit, you have done research on how girls of color in Baltimore have responded. We talked about cell phones and social media. That's one of the reasons we're keeping our daughter off of a phone, so she's not on social media. But girls of color in particular have had to deal with a lot of online harassment. And you've done research into how they've responded and what their experiences have been like. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And again, this research is very close to my heart. I do a lot of research which impacts me personally as well. So, this is a collaborative research that I did with my friend and collaborator, Parekh. And it was through a grant that my institution provided me. And we did in the greater Baltimore area, in Baltimore County, City, and Howard County as well. And we wanted to analyze and understand the different kinds of online sexual harassment that girls of color and girls in general, adult teenage girls go through. And we found out that for girls of color, it's not just sexual harassment, but it's racialized sexual harassment. So a lot of times, sexual harassment along with racial connotation are used to constantly harass them on different social media platforms. And we, as part of the same research, we also found how different groups of parents respond to it. Like we asked in our survey, in the research, who do you go to when you need most support, when you need most help? How do you navigate the situation? And that was both very alarming and humbling for us. And most of the participants, they shared that they first go to their parents, then they go to their friends, and then teachers. And how the parents responded also, it kind of varied racially. And being Asian American myself, I was really, and my collaborator Paro, she's Asian American herself, so we were interested to see how Asian parents, they respond. And most Asian parents, the first way they responded was, okay, ignore, and then if it doesn't go away, then report. So that's how we were like, oh, that's interesting, even how the response works in terms of sexual harassment, online sexual harassment. And from there, we kind of developed some workshop materials to help parents navigate the situation, because even us parents, we are not digital, we don't belong to digitally native community. We have been we got access to social media and smartphones much later in our lives, so we are learning as well. So navigating something as we are learning and going about it, using it, could be quite difficult for us as well.
And and you also looked at how some parents have used generative AI to help address harassment. Talk about that a little bit. I know that Sree is, and again, Sree is, was disappointed when he realized he wouldn't be able to join us last minute. But I know this topic is particularly interesting to him with all the workshops he's done on AI. So tell us about how parents are using AI to fight back.
Right. And the research that we just discussed, that kind of primed us to look into how generative AI could be used as a tool for parents to learn and support their children. And the next research we just finished, it. I did it with my collaborator Sangwei Chen. He's at Towson as well, and two of my undergraduate researchers, Adonica and Amaya. And we looked at ChatGPT, Meta platforms, as well as Copilot. and used generative AI prompts to understand what were the tools available and how could parents have a conversation to support their children to combat or to protect themselves against sexual harassment. And we found that all the three platforms, they gave different options to us. So Meta was more monitoring, and it was like, oh, these are the ways you can monitor your child, and these are the ways that you can have a conversation with them, especially girls of color. And these are the different these are the different organizations that help support. Copilot, surprisingly, was more proactive. So it was like, okay, you can monitor, but these are the ways you can have a conversation first, and you can show them examples and go on. And ChatGPT was a good combination of both of them, focusing more on having conversations, and specifically the tools that you could use, security tools and other tools like privacy settings that you could use to kind of steer your children, your kids, towards being self-reliant in protecting themselves. And I think that is what is much needed. You can only monitor so much, unless, again, your stakeholders are into it, or the kids
Mhm.
are, they understand. It becomes a difficult conversation.
It's interesting that you saw those differences between the platforms. I mentioned some of the work I was doing with AI with Emily, and I did it on another project as well recently. I was using Perplexity, ChatGPT, and Claude, and I also tried Gemini, which is the Google product, for the first time. Is the answer to use multiple platforms to get several responses and then try and find a kind of an amalgamation of them, the best of each one? Is that practical for folks?
um I would say it is time consuming, but I would also say that Gen AI is not there yet, having used multiple platforms. And when we were doing this research, Gemini AI wasn't still as much on board. So we
Hmm.
didn't use that platform. We would have, if it was available. So I would definitely say yes, it is time consuming, but it is also not matured enough that you can depend on one single platform. So you kind of, you have to right now pick and choose and kind of get your feet wet in all of those platforms and then figure out from there. It is work for parents, I wouldn't deny. This is navigating social media platforms and how kids are kind of having a conversation and going about it is an added responsibility for parents. And as I said earlier, we are not always better equipped right now. And I haven't still caught up with the show. Adolescence on Netflix is
Yes,
kind of,
yes.
that's the same conversation around the show that I have, at least what I've read about. I haven't seen the show yet, but it's the same thing. This is an added responsibility. We just need to kind of pick and choose which platform works better for us in informing.
Absolutely. We have a few more comments I want to bring in. First of all, Arlene Schulman, former guest on the show, is saying hello from New York City. Arlene, thank you so much for joining us. And then in StreamYard, where we can show comments from different platforms. Unfortunately, it doesn't give the name and profile picture, but I do know from checking that this is Narissa Street, who is watching. And if you, I don't know if you know Narissa, but Narissa's comment is that reminding students and everyone that whatever you upload into the AI becomes part of the data is key. And that's reflecting on, kind of what you were talking about, what I was talking about, and not uploading the full story, the full book that my daughter is working on. But that's an important factor, definitely. Swati said earlier, great point that you made earlier. We didn't have it growing up, but I wish we had a cell phone ban back then. I wish we had a cell phone back then. Forget about a ban. And Aloka says, great conversation. I want to point out, unless there was a problem with the keyboard, Pia, is that your nickname?
That's my nickname. As you know, Indians, we have two names.
Of course.
So that's the name that my family they use.
I'll wait for the email for when I can start calling you Pia as well, because we're becoming fast friends.
Right.
Matenga Abel is watching from Tanzania, from the Montengo Highland in Tanzania, to be specific. And I'm going to guess that that's again Narissa. I'm just going to check the comments here. No, it's Arya Chowdhury.
That's
watching.
my husband. That's my dear husband. Yeah. So
my dear, thank you so much for letting us borrow your wife this morning. And I'm sorry that we can't see your profile picture and name, but thank you so much for watching. I didn't ask. Usually we start with what would you be doing on a Sunday morning if you weren't doing the show? What is your Sunday routine, as it were?
Well, Sunday is precious. That's the only day I get to sleep a little bit.
Yes.
So and after after that, it's mostly family time with my husband, with my daughter. Sunday mornings we usually prefer to stay home or maybe go out a little bit. So next Sunday we are planning to go to see the cherry blossom. And
good.
So we'll just do things, local things, or just spend time as family.
Hopefully there'll still be some left when I think peak is this weekend. I don't know. I'm hoping we'll go down this afternoon. We might go to a local gardens instead and get, it's just the crowds. Oh my God, the crowds down at
every person I'm hearing they went to see the blossoms yesterday and we missed it.
Yeah. Swapan Majumdar says, I support you, watching on Facebook. Thank you, Swapan. And Ashwarya, watching on LinkedIn, says, during your research, did you find out specific ways that individuals can protect their images from being manipulated in AI? That was AI. That was beyond the scope of your work.
Right.
And I don't know that there's anything you can do if your images are in a public database. And one of the things that I'll point out right now is that you're using LinkedIn, Ashwarya. A lot of people use Facebook. On Facebook, I often see posts from people saying, I hereby declare that Facebook cannot use my picture for anything. That's I'm sorry to say that is just a just scam. That's empty words. Writing anything like that doesn't have any impact on Facebook's ability to use your content. When you use social media, right, you don't own the platform. So when you agree to use the platform and you upload content there, they own the media. They own the pictures, they own the videos. They can do whatever they want with it. And they're changing their terms of service constantly and slipping in, we may use it to teach AI or share it with third parties, etc. They don't even have to say AI. They can just say that we're sharing it with third parties, and you have to accept that. It's some platforms are better than others in terms of how they use your content, but unfortunately, in this world that we live in, unless you stay off the grid and not upload anything even to a website, even I have my own website. I don't assume that anything I put on my website is somehow protected. I have a copyright on the images, but it doesn't stop anyone from doing a screenshot and then doing what they want with the picture.
And I completely agree with you. Aishwarya, thank you so much for your question. Yes, it's beyond the scope of the research. We did not particularly look up on images and how they could be protected, but maybe someday. Again, as Neil, what you said, to your point, it's just very hard to navigate how much it's either like take it or leave it. when it comes to using social media and the different ways that third parties could use it. So I would say, periodically just do checks on how, you are sharing information, and how your information is being used, even outside of the platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ashwarya says, got it and thank you. So appreciate that, Ashwarya. I hope if anyone here has shared that message on Facebook, apologize if my words came out a little bit harsh. I do try and gently explain to people when I see that, but it doesn't do anything when you make a statement about your media. So I wanted to make sure people were aware. Again, our guest is Pallavi Guha. She has a Ph.D. She's a professor at Towson University. She's done a lot of research around social media, around online harassment. But one of the things that she works on, which I think is really cool, is that she also manages a newsroom for called the Baltimore Watchdog. This is a run by Towson University students. Pallavi, tell us a little bit about the work that these students are doing, and what role you're playing. You're a former journalist yourself. You get to be an editor for these student journalists.
Right. So Baltimore Watchdog is a faculty-run news website. And this was started by my colleague John Kirch several years ago, even before I came to Towson. And now students across different skills, reporting classes, they contribute to the Baltimore Watchdog. I'm the news editor because I also teach news reporting. That's one of the things. And it's very close to my heart because I'm a former journalist. I worked in the UK, India, and then US as well. And then I came to academia. But as you know, being a journalist is always a journalist. You just cannot take journalism away from people who have once been a journalist. So my students here at Watchdog, they report on like newsworthy things that are currently happening in Watchdog, in Baltimore, sorry, and around Maryland. Most importantly, this academic year, Baltimore Watchdog, we got two support, one for community center, CCN, Center for Community News at Vermont, and they supported the election reporting of 2024, where if you go to the tab 2024 elections, you will see that my students and other skills class students, they reported on the elections, the day of the elections, as well as the run up to the election. And one thing they focused that what were first time youth voters thinking when it came to casting their vote? What were their issues? How were they going about it? And the day of the elections, they also covered local events. They went to polling station and so on. Another Solutions Journalism Network is our other funder who is funding us for the entire academic year to report on student mental health in colleges. And last fall, my students did amazing work on the mental health of student athletes specifically. We don't talk a lot about student athletes, issues and challenges that they go through when they are transitioning from high school, when it comes to nutrition. So, what could be done? How, what are the things that are working for them, and what was not there in the past now that they have? What, how can things be better? What others can learn from this? And I'm most excited about the current work that my students are doing around solutions journalism and mental health. It's more broad. And it's in progress. In the next couple of weeks, they'll be out with the stories where they are focusing on academic workload and how it impacts student mental health, financial stress, which is a big factor for students, financial aid when it comes to their parents, employment, and the loans that they have taken, internships, and so on. And on a lighter note, student mental health and FOMO. if they're missing out on the fun, what can they do? Does it give them social anxiety if they're missing out on the fun, or should they be online, or how should they balance their schoolwork and going out with their friends partying, and as well as
Sure.
kind of being online? So it's very varied and diverse, and I'm looking forward to what they are going to produce. It's kind of they've already started working on this.
As folks know who watch the show, I actually produce a show focused on mental health,
Yes.
Shining Light on Shadows, a candid conversation about mental health. Our most recent episode featured Jim Yu talking about borderline personality disorder and the support for families. He's a former colleague of mine at United Way, and his daughter actually attempted suicide twice before they were able to get the help they need. And I'm happy to say that his daughter is doing much better, and his family is really benefited from their workshops. In fact, he started teaching those workshops, then joined some committees, and now is chair of the board at the National Education Alliance for Borderline Personality Disorder. But this is a topic that's very close to my heart, and we produce a show twice a month, the second and fourth Thursdays of the month, with support from Digimentors. I am always thankful that Digimentors gives me the time and space to do that important work. And Pallavi, we spoke about the possibility of you being on that show, or maybe you and a student joining us to share more about the great work that you're doing around mental health. So thank you for that. We're
And
looking
thank
forward
you
to it.
so much. Thank you. This is important work in the sense that we need to keep having these conversations. And as I said, that students and young people are so much on different platforms other than being physically and having physical conversations, and interacting and engaging. So it's important that we kind of focus on their mental health well-being and overall well-being. They're all associated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm just running the ticker in terms of where to find information about the show. You can find past episodes and blog posts at neilparekh.org, Shining Light on Shadows, neilparekh.org, Shining Light on Shadows. So encourage people to check that out and learn more. We just have a few minutes left with Pallavi before we switch gears and talk about the newspaper. I do want to mention, just looking at the work that you're doing, Solutions Journalism, of course, also is a former client of ours at Digimentors. We produced several shows for them a few years ago, so we definitely support the work that they're doing. And then when you talked about the 2024 elections, I noticed that you covered the Carson Institute Election Watch Party. We have worked with Kay Whitehead in the past, who is the head of the Carson Institute, and she's also the president of the Association for the American Society for the Study of African American. I'm butchering the name. I'm going to have to look it up to make sure I get it right. They're the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. They're the founders of Black History Month, and we are big fans of the work they do. So I wanted to give them a shout out as well. This is a quick look at their website, and we hope we're going to reach out to her. Hopefully, she'll be a guest on our show fairly soon. This is their website. They're the ones that set the theme for Black History Month every year, and they just do incredible work. Do you work with them at all locally?
No, I haven't had the opportunity to work with them. But then, when my students went to cover the watch party there, they had great things to say, and then they also interviewed several people, and they found it very engaging, not just from a
Good.
journalist point of view, but also from like a first time voter student point of view as well.
Good. Maybe we can help make some connections between you and Dr. Whitehead. That would be
That would be great. It's important work.
networking is always good. It's always
Yes,
good.
I agree.
Um, So again, we have a number of different comments. Let's see what people are saying.
I can see my father here.
Your father is watching.
I can see. Yeah,
I'll
my
get to him.
father is watching. Samir Guha.
I'll get to him in just a second. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure that people know that in case you joined us late, you can still watch the show from the beginning. As soon as we're done, you'll be able to go back to the very beginning to watch this great conversation with Pallavi Guha. So I want to make sure that you know that. So let's check out. So Samir Guha, you said, right?
Yes,
I
yes.
see the comment right here.
And
Pallavi, the discussion with Sree is very interesting. Samir from India. So I just to point out, I'm actually sitting in for Sree. I'm the executive producer and occasional guest host. Hopefully, this conversation with Neil is also interesting, Mr. Guha. Uncle, thank you very much for joining.
And I'm sure my mother is watching as well. She hasn't commented yet.
She hasn't commented yet. Right?
Not yet.
No,
my
okay.
mother, Baisakhi Guha, she's also watching.
Okay.
And then I can see my uncle too.
Who is that?
Asmanja Ghosh.
Oh, yes. Pia, enjoying the conversation. Interesting indeed. I guess watching from Kolkata as well. Kea Musical is watching on YouTube, saying, hello, I find this discussion very interesting.
That is my mother, Baisakhi Guha. She's a singer, so that's her channel. So she's
wow.
From there.
It's the whole family. Your parents, your friends. I think you had was it an uncle watching? Your husband?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, wonderful. So as a reminder, we actually do this show every Sunday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. India Standard Time when daylight savings is in flux. Otherwise, it's obviously an hour later. We produce this in partnership with Scroll.in, one of India's most important independent websites. So that also gives another avenue for people to watch in India. But we certainly encourage you to join us when you can. Hopefully, some of you might come back, even if Pia is not on the show. Hopefully, you might see I jumped right there, that you might find it interesting. Our next show, just so folks know, we're going to be taking next week off. And spoiler alert, it's actually Emily's birthday coming up. So we're going to be celebrating her birthday next weekend. And Sree is traveling. But the weekend after that, our guest will be Alison Kosik. She is a former CNN International and CNN International anchor and business correspondent. She wrote a book, What's Up with Money? What's Up with Women and Money? How to do all the financial stuff you've been avoiding. So that is definitely going to be an interesting show. April 13th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Don't miss that. We still have more time on today's show. We'll get to the New York Times in just a minute. We also want to say, and Kea does clarify that, yes, I have commented. Kea Musical is the name. But what was your mother's name again?
Baisakhi Guha.
Baisakhi Guha. Auntie, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. And then Ishani Sengupta is also watching.
My friend from New Jersey and college. We went to college together.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Wow. That's so great. That's so great. And Auntie says, it's a good show. I must appreciate Mr. Parekh. Thank you so much, Auntie. Appreciate it. Appreciate it so much. Again, what a great conversation. We covered how the cell phone mindful time, not ban, but the cell phone mindful time in Howard County is working. We talked about how girls of color responded to online harassment, how parents are using AI to get resources to fight back, which AI platforms work well, which didn't. And we also talked about the Baltimore Watchdog news site that you help manage for Towson University journalism students. So much that we packed in, and we pushed it to 9:30. we do want to take time to look at the paper, but we also want to remind folks that at 10 o'clock, my daughter, who I mentioned earlier, is going to join us to review the New York Times for Kids. It's a special print-only section that you can download from our website. You can get it before noon Eastern time today. That's 7:30 p.m. India Standard Time. Excuse me. So definitely encourage you to do that, and make sure you go to for folks watching. I'll drop the link in Facebook, etc. But for folks who are watching, you can go to our website, go to digimentors.group, and look for the New York Times read along. There's at the very top of the page, you can see that. And you can also look for the Pallavi Guha show and find the link to download the PDF. But you have to do it before noon Eastern time today. This is through a special arrangement with the New York Times. So we always want to thank them for doing that. So with that, we're going to switch gears and talk about the New York Times. And what I'll do, Pallavi, I'll turn my attention to the paper, and I'll keep you on screen. If there's a headline or something that gets your attention, please let me know. But feel free to jump in and comment and share any thoughts about any of the articles that we're looking at.
And I see that on YouTube, my husband Arya has commented, and my daughter is watching with him. So I'm glad. Hi.
He said hello from another part of the house in Ellicott City. Father and daughter enjoying this very engaging and relevant conversation. We'd love to see. We talked about this earlier, but we'd love to hear. The New York Times for Kids may be a little young for your daughter, but definitely, hopefully, you can stay around for that. But let us know what you think, dear 15-year-old daughter. I believe you said. What do you think about the cell phone ban? Let's get your thoughts in there if we can. We'll take a chance and see what she says. So let's go ahead and turn our attention to the paper. I also want to mention that we have, I wanted to call it earlier. I'll come back on camera for just a moment because we have someone watching on Instagram, and I wanted to get their name. The username is Jenny Chandler is watching on Instagram, saying, watching from Charles County, Maryland. Thank you for bringing us the news from the New York Times. Jenny, thank you so much. I'm sorry we can't put your comment on screen, just the way the Instagram works. But Jenny is a former colleague of mine. She was the executive director, managing director for Justice Aid, which is a nonprofit I serve on the board for. So thank you, Jenny. Appreciate you joining us. So with that, let's turn our attention to the newspaper and dig in, because there's some really important articles that we saw, and we will get that. We'll put this on the screen and go ahead and take a look. And I'll also move my microphone over, so hopefully the sound will come in a little bit better. So we mentioned earlier, now unfortunately I won't be able to drop in links while I'm watching. If anyone wants to do that and help out, that'd be great. You can find some of these links on the New York Times website. But this Ukraine story, we will definitely add to our website after the show. This is a huge story from the New York Times. I do want to say hello to Kaveri, watching from Ireland. She also says hello to Neil and Pallavi. So I'm going to go right to this story. We'll take a look at the page 2 and page 3 in just a second. But this is a huge investigation built on 300 interviews that the Times reporters did. And it's almost like it could have been a standalone piece. You see the way that it's laid out inside, the partnership, the secret history of the war in Ukraine. Ukrainian military operations have killed or wounded more than 700,000 Russian soldiers. This is the story of America's hidden role. And if you turn over, and I'm curious to see whether it's all in print today or whether they're going to piece it out, because there's a part 1 building trust and a killing machine. With boundaries and rules of engagement set, the U.S. supplies weaponry, intelligence, and points of interest to help Ukraine repel Russia's invasion. We have found our partner, a top Ukrainian general tells his commander-in-chief. So it shows who the key figures were in this partnership on the U.S. side, on the Ukrainian side, some of the hardware that was used. And so that's so far 3 full pages. They do lay it all out. Part 2, there is an idea. When you defeat Russia, as a leading comment, they had a big conference in Wiesbaden, Germany, at the beginning of the war. But then part 3, the best laid plans, 15 months into the war, a tipping point arrives. Taking on greater autonomy, Ukraine begins to eschew the U.S. call for caution and seeks decisive blows. There's a lot of disagreement on how to conduct the war between the U.S. and Ukraine. And then this continues. There's seeing a path to victory, becoming slimmer, and then breaches of trust and borders. Zelensky making changes to military leadership. And of course, as I mentioned in the opening, with President Trump taking office, U.S. support for Ukraine has all but evaporated. We are doing Russia's bidding as far as the war is concerned. There's no mistake that he's doing everything he can to help Putin. No one should be confused about that point. But this report from the New York Times is extensive, and it ends here on this page. I will say that we had a question last week about why we still focus on the Times. I think this is why we focus on the Times without looking at reading the details. And there may be questions about the content. No other news organization can do this kind of report. A note on sourcing. Over more than a year of reporting. I'll see whether we can show it without the shadow. It's a little bit hard, but over more than a year of reporting, Adam Entus conducted more than 300 interviews with current and former policymakers, Pentagon officials, intelligence officials, and military officers in Ukraine, the United States, Britain, and a number of other European countries. While some agreed to speak on the record, most requested that their names not be used in order to discuss sensitive military and intelligence operations. There's also a section on sources and methodology. But I do not know of another news organization that could have pulled this off. Pallavi, any thoughts on this?
It is very extensive, and thank you so much for sharing this, putting the focus and light, especially on sourcing and methodology. It increases transparency and builds trust with the audience and readers, and very important right now when we are seeing that there's decreasing trust on the media. I would say that it's extensive, which is great, but to engage younger audiences, I don't know if it's possible to have a Gen AI created 4 bullet points of the entire story on the website. And I think that would be a great way to engage the youth.
In fact, they do have a key takeaways online for the story,
Great.
which I thought was very, very interesting, right on the homepage. So I'm going to actually show the homepage real quick, because as much as we like print and we focus, sorry, the lighting got off a little bit, as much as we celebrate print journalism with this show, when appropriate, we also like to show what's online. So let's take a look at that real quickly. From the New York Times homepage, you can see that picture on the left-hand side, this is the partnership. They have a video that is running by a Times reporter explaining the story, which runs automatically. And I've actually never seen the Times website feature a reporter video that prominently on the page. Usually you'll have a bigger picture, maybe a few other stories, but I've never seen the Times, and maybe they do it during the week, but I've never seen that so prominently, particularly on a Sunday. And then they have this takeaways from our investigation right here, just exactly to your point. Now, I don't know how easy this is for folks to consume. I haven't looked at it myself, but they do have nice headings that you can scan through. It looks like it breaks it down a little bit easier than reading the long investigation that they have.
Right.
Um,
And eventually the long investigation is, it's great, but it's more time. When you have the time, you will go through it. But the key takeaways just helps to bring attention to the main points.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that's always good in terms of understanding how do you make your content easier for people to consume. That's an important point. We have a comment. Aria is saying, "Oh, she's getting back to the cell phone discussion." So we'll take that comment. And she says, while I've been enjoying the show, while the cell phone ban was challenging to get used to, I believe we need more engaging conversations with students directly about the why. Very interesting. Very interesting. Arya Chaudhary is, this is Anahita saying this, right? Is it
Yes.
Anita?
Anahita.
So that's an interesting, a nuanced perspective. So thank you for that. That was good. Let's get back to the paper real quick. We will, one of the things we talked about, transparency and accountability. One of the things that the New York Times does on page 2 and 3, which I love, is the story behind the story. They do a Times Insider column. And this is by Adam Nagorny. It's a reflection on Max Frankel, the Times executive editor from 1986 to 1994. He passed away earlier this month, a Times editor who was the last of his kind. But this article always goes behind the scenes to give you a sense of how Times reporters do their job. The Dateline section, where Times journalists are reporting from around the world, shows, it was an effort. We had Megan DeTrolio on 2 years ago when they redesigned the page 2 and 3. They added this to show people where they're reporting from, that they're actually on the ground in, and this is not the only, these aren't the only places, of course, but Mexico, Aurora, Colorado, Damascus, and Banalay Island in the Solomon Islands, among other places. I like this column by David Dunlap, exploring an artifact from the New York Times. I had the opportunity to visit the New York Times Museum and have a tour by David. We recorded several segments. We're going to be doing a special show just about the New York Times Museum. And I can tell you, I was in heaven walking around there. It was really just a one-of-a-kind experience for me. There's an article, an international article, but this is, really domestic news. Afghan students abandoned by broken U.S. promises. Mm-hmm. These are student visas that are being canceled. And is Afghan students at the American University in Qatar, I believe. In Qatar. That's a big challenge. Let's see what else is in the paper. So what we do is we flip through the paper. We look to see what articles, what headlines catch our attention. What is something that maybe we want to comment on, or at least draw to people's attention. Sydney's new beach is as long as Bondi. It's just 50 miles inland. So that's interesting. Trump is giving Europe vertigo, and not just about Ukraine. More on Trump. Here's some news from Egypt. I lived in Egypt for 2 years. My wife got her Ph.D. focusing on Middle East studies. And while she was doing language studies, I was in interviews. I was working there. But tomb of unknown pharaoh is unearthed in Egypt. That's interesting. And again, the earthquake in Myanmar, big coverage of that. And then we have the partnership story. So we'll jump over that real quickly and see what else we have. Again, we looked at this earlier.
And the visualizations and images really draw attention to this investigative piece.
Absolutely.
It's elaborative. And as I said earlier, the sources and methodologies, that's just such a great inclusion in the story. If you have questions who we spoke to, because 300 interviews is a lot.
It is.
It's a lot of interviews.
But I do want to also take a moment to notice the layout and the graphic elements that they use, right? So if you go back a little bit, I mean, one of the things that, when you're reading in print versus reading online, what gets your attention? What draws your eye, right? So this kind of headline, kind of with some white space at the top, the partnership, these little graphics in terms like a map on the side, people are more likely to read pull quotes and subheads than read through the whole thing. And I'm sure that those key takeaways are likely taken from some of these subheads and these starts of these different parts, right? That show some of the detail. We showed this graphic earlier as well. There's a pull quote. Most states did this over a period of 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, but we were forced to do it in a matter of weeks. We don't know what the reference is, but that makes us think, maybe I should read around there to find out.
And the maps, they are a really good attention just to kind of draw in the reader and the audience to where things are happening, what are the key areas, and what to focus on.
And in an online treatment, these generals that they're highlighting and officials, actually that's President Biden on the left, they could link to more information about them. They could link to another page at the risk of taking people off of your website, and then they wouldn't come back and finish. That's always something people need to consider. But the layout is definitely very well done. The design team really gets a lot of kudos for their work on this piece. And again, the methodology and the sourcing information is here on the right-hand side. In the national section, pressure to clear homeless camps can come with fatal cost. This is in Atlanta. Crushed inside a tent by heavy equipment. Wow. This is a huge issue in a number of communities, but I don't think I've seen this kind of reporting before in terms of a homeless encampment leading to this kind of fatality. One of the things I like to point out is that the New York Times, and I did a tour of the New York Times printing plant. We actually had Michael Connors as our guest at the end of the year last year, but I did a tour for my birthday several years ago when I came up to New York for my 50th birthday. What I chose to do was do a tour of the New York Times printing plant. We interviewed the editor-in-chief of the magazine, Jake Silverstein, in his office on a Wednesday. I went to 2 Yankee games. I'm a big Yankee fan. And my mom threw a big 50th birthday party for me that Saturday. But this is how I chose to celebrate: the New York Times, baseball, and a party.
And that's a great way to celebrate, Neil. That's
right?
an excellent, absolutely. Excellent way to celebrate.
So the New York Times printing plant can print, I believe, up to 40 pages in a section. But the New York Times is delivered across the country, and they rely on local printing plants to do their printing and delivery. So here in Washington, in the DC area, I'm based in Washington, DC, it's the Washington Post. Most other plants can only go 24 pages. So the rest of the A book is almost like a second section. It's kind of tucked in. And then this article, to me, always gets more attention because it's easy to see. It's almost like flipping through. You get another look at this. Again, sacrosanct choice at mosque after Ramadan, glazed or jelly. Again, Eid Mubarak to all who are celebrating today. But that's effectively the A-book. This is the New York Times for Kids, which we will be getting to in just about 10 minutes. Emily will be joining us to review. My daughter will be joining us to review this. Make sure you download it from our website, but we'll set that aside. Sunday Opinion, the false promise of the medical freedom movement, and featuring RFK Jr. Very prominently. Very disappointed in how he's approached a number of things over the years. It's just gotten worse recently. Here's an important, almost a public service announcement. The genetic testing company 23andMe went out of business, filed for bankruptcy. And the big thing that a lot of people are saying, go online, delete your data as soon as possible, because who knows where your data is going to go when someone else buys it. And that's what the California Attorney General advised consumers to do, just that.
Yes. And it was a rare announcement from what I heard, what I read at least, that asking folks to take proactive steps about their data.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that before as well. And just want to remind folks that our next show is going to be April 13th with Alison Kosik, former CNN business reporter. She wrote a book, What's Up with Women and Money, How to Do All the Financial Stuff You've Been Avoiding. Some of the other articles in the opinion section, it's not the hypocrisy, it's the stupidity. This is about the Signal group chat where they were sharing war plans. Trump's attack on trans youth research is a tragic error. Couldn't agree more. Apparently, Ben Franklin has some thoughts about whether or not we should have annexed Canada. We'll take a look at that later. Colleges have to be much more honest with themselves. What is this? Greg Weiner, president of Assumption University and a former senior aide to Senator Bob Kerrey, Democrat of Nebraska. To rebuild trust and resist interference, universities must look within. I'd be curious to see what is going there. The news out of Boston this week with a Tufts student who was on a student visa, who was abducted on the street by masked, plainclothes officers from ICE, was just horrible. I am proud that Wesleyan University, where I graduated from, has been outspoken in defending its students and how they're handling things with Trump, etc. Has this become a conversation topic at Towson, Pallavi?
I would say that, it is, I would leave it to the Office of General Counsel, how they are dealing with it. I think it's kind of a conversation going back and forth. We are kind of following the institutional guidelines as the General Counsel lets us know.
Sure. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Sure.
I want to say hi to Dr. Tachi, watching from Fort Lauderdale. Dr. Tachi is another former guest, has her own show, Mediascope. You can find that on Facebook and I believe YouTube and Instagram. Jonathan says attempts to annex Canada go back to the revolution. And as my cousin from Toronto likes to remind me, we failed miserably, I believe, in the War of 1812 when we invaded Canada and were repelled. So there is that history there. I think South Park has a few things to say about invading Canada. Here is a big article. She had cancer. She didn't trust doctors. I have not seen such a large opinion piece like this before. You see, it takes up almost more than a full page.
Right.
Shameful silence from top American law firms. Bowing to Trump won't help legal institutions protect their businesses and clients. This was a topic on last week's show as well. And we've seen in the last few days, some law firms are fighting back. And there was I think there was some judicial decisions that were favorable to law firms that are being attacked by Trump. But Skadden Arps agreed to I believe it was $100 million settlement to do pro bono work for the Trump administration to avoid being hit by executive orders. It is certainly shameful that law firms are not pursuing any legal recourse, even where folks think that there might be, they might have some success with that. Several are just folding. Very, very disappointing. This is interesting. Optimization culture comes for grief. Lifelike AI avatars of the dead promise a way to avoid the pain of loss. This sounds like sci-fi to me. And there's some sitcoms that I think followed this plot as well. I'd be curious. Patricia Freudenberg has done a lot of work around grief and loss, and has an app called Missugram. is always, recognizing when people have passed. I'd be curious to see, obviously at a later time, Patricia, but take a look at this article. We'd be curious about your thoughts on that.
I have had a graduate student, some years ago who did her thesis on online grief sharing, Sarah.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, and she used she analyzed and studied how Facebook groups could be helpful and could come to use when it came to grief, dealing with grief and of your loved ones, especially your significant, especially someone's significant other. That was a very humbling research and very insightful as well.
If you get a chance, if you have a link to their webpage or their study, if you can put it into the Facebook chat while we're talking real quick. If you can't, you can do it later. But if you can find that link, that would definitely be interesting for folks to see.
I have it quite handy, and I'm going to put it there. It's available online.
That's great.
For the master's thesis that she did. So I'll just put it in a bit.
Well, thank you. This is what I would be doing if Sree was hosting and I'm sitting in the background. I'm Googling, studies like this, references that people are making to either show it on screen or put it in the chat. But unfortunately, I can't do that when I'm also hosting the show. Here, interesting. Hooters is made for straight men. It's been a refuge for gay ones. That's interesting. Don't throw boys to the wolves online. What is this about?
Yeah.
The manosphere is full of disturbing content, and we underestimate it at our peril. So that graphic, take a look at that graphic of someone looking at a cell phone, and with their reflection. And it's hard to tell, but their reflection, I mean, at least to me, unless it looks like their hair is standing on edge on their arm, it's certainly a distorted reflection in that phone.
It is. And it just seems to me, I haven't read this, but it seems to me it is very close to what we were just discussing about the show Adolescents.
It's written by Rachel Louise Snyder, a contributing opinion writer and the author of No Visible Bruises, What We Don't Know About Domestic Violence Can Kill Us. So that's the book that she wrote. But this article, last year, researchers at Dublin City University released a report on a disturbing phenomenon, a surge of male supremacy videos in young men's social media feeds. Wow. Just wow. A few comments that have come in. Patricia says, thank you. That's right up my alley. This previous article is right up her lane as a certified end-of-life coach. So I'm sure she'll be interested in seeing that link that you're sharing. And my mom says, Pallavi, very good presentation, an important one. I'm happy that your family and friends joined the show as well. Here's from the editorial board. The Democrats are in denial about 2024. This perilous political moment requires self-reflection and honesty instead of the party's convenient excuses. There's a lot that can be said about the Democrats in 2024. And more importantly, I'm more interested in what's going to happen in 2026 and beyond. And the last page, Bernie Sanders, speaking of that, opinion by Megan Stack, Bernie Sanders and the surging politics of anger. Huge crowds he has enjoyed over the last several days. We are just approaching 10 o'clock. Emily is going to join us shortly to talk about New York Times for Kids. We will do that in just a moment. As a reminder, you can get the New York Times for Kids from our website until noon Eastern time today, noon Eastern time. And Emily will be joining us in just a few minutes. We're just going to finish up the paper, one more section with the paper, and then bring Emily into the room. The Sunday business section we looked at in terms of the collage, and then the Sunday styles, it's the end of work as we knew it, this Gen X career meltdown. I just wanted to take a look at what that article was about. It looks like it's a 2-page article inside. Let's see if I can find that real quick.
And Neil, I shared the
Yes.
link with you, the studio chat. I can log in and share it on the comments. So feel free to share.
That's all right.
Yeah.
We'll share it. We'll add it to the website later. If folks go to our website, you'll be able to find that link from Pallavi about that research she was talking about. But here is this. I'll just take a look at this real quickly. Gen X creatives hit a career wall. It's the end of work as we knew it, and I feel powerless to fight the technology that we pioneered, nostalgic for a world that moved on without us, after decades of paying our dues for a payday that never came. So yeah, not exactly fine. Here's a quote: that TV spot you spent 6 months on now becomes a TikTok execution you spend 6 days on. And there's no way you can survive anymore being strong at one thing. The skills you cultivated, the craft you honed, it's just gone. It's startling. Just when, all these quotes about how work has changed, about the creating content. We talked about AI earlier.
Right.
This has impacted so many people. This is definitely something worth spending some time with later to understand what this generation, what Gen X has dealt with. And I'll say for myself, I'm on maybe the older side of Gen X, and I'm thankful I haven't had this type of experience so far. The work that I've been doing around social media, I know that, for example, I do a lot of analytical work around social media. AI tools can't do what I do because of the methodology I use, because of the unique approach I use to analyzing social media. So at least that part of my job is safe for now. And unless AI can figure out how to do the New York Times read along, I think shows like this are still safe for a bit. But we'll see how that
And
goes.
the emotional quotient that the interaction, the emotional quotient that you bring into the show. That's
hopefully
it is.
Hopefully that's there's a bit to that as well. But Pallavi, I want to thank you so much for being with us for this part of the show. It's been great. We are now going to switch gears. I'm going to move the papers out of the way so that we can focus on the New York Times for kids. And we're going to have Emily join us. I think she's coming in the room right now, and there she is. Let's see if we can bring her on camera. We'll turn the camera on right now, and let's see here. There we go. Here's Emily.
Hi, Emily. How are you? Good morning.
So we will give Emily a headset. 1 second so she can hear you saying hello.
I can hear.
Can you hear through my ear? Is it that loud?
Yeah.
So you don't need a headset?
Well, no, I do, but
okay, we'll give you a headset. And can you close the door behind you? That'd be great. That was the one piece of instruction I didn't give her last night. So put that on, and the other way. So it's up here. Let me show you. It goes on this ear and just hooks over.
I need that.
And I will say that I'm very proud. Hopefully it was intentional. Let's show the shirt that you're wearing. Wesleyan University. Did you do that on purpose, Emily, or no?
No.
No?
I just need to find something to wear that was gray.
So let's try that again. Yes, Dad, I did it on purpose because I know you love Wesleyan University.
Yeah.
So
Hi,
Emily is here to talk about, so can you hear, did you hear Pallavi say good morning?
Yeah.
Great.
And happy birthday in advance. I know next week you turn 12.
Thank you.
April 9th is her birthday. So we're doing her birthday next weekend. And that's why we're not doing a show on Sunday morning. Patricia says, hello, Emily. We're your big fans. And my mom says, I assume that's Atul Mama, our uncle, Dr. Tully is watching. Might be Bhupendra Kaka, I'm not sure. Mom, let me know which one it is. And I just want to get in some quick comments before we turn to Emily. Let's see here. Jonathan says good points about the use and abuse of cell phones and social media. Patricia says, thank you, Pallavi, and the entire production team for another amazing episode.
Thank
And then
you.
Dr. Tachi says, the interesting thing, I think it depends on what part of Gen X you're in. If you're on the cusp with boomers, it may be very startling. If you're almost a millennial, you may be okay. So with that,
You're not almost a millennial.
apparently I'm not almost a millennial. Dr. Tachi says, happy birthday, Emily. Kavri says, what lovely young girl Emily is. Deborah Kerr says, welcome to Emily. And Patricia says, happy birthday in advance. So with that, Emily, why don't you come here to the paper?
Okay.
This is the New York Times for Kids. Now, the first thing that I think is interesting is that when you look at the way they did the design of the cover, this is, first of all, it's the huge issue. And we should say that they have an editor's note at the top. It's a little hard to read.
It says, no, this section should not be read by grown-ups.
But we're going to read it anyway. We do that every month.
Read it.
Oh, you're going to read it.
Too.
We're not supposed to, but
No.
but we do anyway. We break
I'm
the
a
rules.
grown-up.
You're grown up? Not yet. She's 11 years old. She thinks she's a grown up. And I'll remind people again that we are going to review the New York Times for Kids. So the thing is with this, the cover is that you see this, and it's like a little mouse over here. If you flip it over, the back page is the leg of an elephant. And so you really can't get a sense of what that looks like unless you open up the whole thing and look at it as a wide shot. This is what they're going for in terms of the design, to show you what that looks like. And as I said, it's the huge issue. Now, one of the things is that this version of the New York Times for Kids is actually really hard to read, Pallavi. If you look at the way they did the layout, and we were talking about the layout earlier in print,
Yes.
this doesn't really make sense. And it's hard if you have the PDF to really figure out what to do. You're supposed to actually pull out all of the pages and look at them individually. So like this page, if you turn this around, you actually have to turn it several times. You have some text here. Welcome to our biggest issue ever. You can read down the side, but you kind of have to turn it this way to look at this section. And the New York Times has never done this before. This is the first time they've done this with the layout. Emily, what is this section about?
It's like about, this part is like the intro.
Yeah.
So, and this part, it's about like what the big things that like kids have done. So like climbing mountains and the waves and stuff. And this part is just about big pets.
So at the bottom here, there are examples of one student who climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, one that swam the English Channel, and one that scaled looming cliffs. When you read these sections, what did that bring up for you?
I mean, I don't know. They did a lot of like big things, and they're like younger than me. Only one of them's younger than me.
Have you ever climbed a mountain?
No.
No. Have you swam?
Actually, no, I have.
What mountain?
I forgot what it was called, but at nature camp, at the fall hike,
Yeah.
we went to the top of a mountain.
But like a big mountain, like
wasn't
Mount
as
Kilimanjaro?
big. It didn't take like days.
So I think when we talked yesterday, you said that this brought up some kind of, not like really big emotions, but you had like a bit of a response, right? You said that like it made you feel like, what have you done? Because you haven't done cool things like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the reason I bring it up is that that's what a lot of people feel with social media. When they see social media and they see, like when I see friends who go to Paris or friends who like go on big trips, that's the concern that people have, is that they, when you compare yourself to other people and you feel like you're not as cool or you haven't done as much.
Yeah.
You had a similar reaction.
Missing out. Fear of missing out. Yeah.
FOMO.
FOMO. Emily, did you like the layout? What did you think about the layout?
The layout of the like the article.
Yeah, how it's kind of, you have to turn things around.
No, because I read it on my computer, so I need to like turn my computer around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was hard. I looked at it. It was easier on my phone. I was pinching and zooming and then turning like several times on each page to figure out what we were reading, what we were looking at. So it definitely is a print. This is definitely a print experience for sure. This is the cover, and this is interesting because this is the back page right here. So this actually is a standalone in terms of that panel. Let's look at what else they have. And usually I don't pull apart a section like this, but this is what the instruction is to do. You have to literally pull the paper apart to be able to read it. So let's take a look at this one. What is this section? It's almost like these are individual posters. Emily, what is this one about?
It's about like the middle part is about like the anatomy of a super tall skyscraper, and this one is just about being a tall person.
Just what my life as the tall kid. So this is a little piece of someone who's 15. I'm 6'7", and I'm definitely the tallest kid in 8th grade, including both the other girls and boys. I've always been tall, and as my parents, I'm taller than both of them now. They're both around 6'3". So this is the highs and lows of human height, and then this big skyscraper. And this is the anatomy of a skyscraper, which is interesting. We're getting a bunch of comments in, so let's see what folks are saying. Let's see. Deborah Kerr said, Emily, welcome. Looking forward to your commentary. And Dr. Tachi said that's very cool. I think when we were looking at the front page. Deborah says the colors are more welcoming than the last Kids edition. Like she likes the layout and content. It's interesting that a lot of the pages you'll see, Deborah, are this kind of dark. This is almost like a blueprint, black and white. Darnice is saying hi from Beverly Hills. And Deborah says, good editorial note about the direction of the online version. Dr. Tachi says she loves this layout. So that's interesting. And again, I want to make sure that people know that you can download the PDF from our website, but just do it before noon. If you go, this is the easier instructions. If you go to our website, look for New York Times Read Along, Digimentors.group, New York Times Read Along, and look for the Pallavi Guha show. The back section of this is about the land of giants. What was this about, Emily?
Big trees.
Big trees?
Yeah.
And what's this in the corner?
This? Oh, it's the actual size of a harpy eagle talon, which is this big.
So put your hand on it. So compared to your hand. So why don't you put your hand next to that? So it's almost bigger than your hand.
No.
Well, the whole
This
that's pretty long. Okay, maybe what, half?
Like maybe it's like this.
Yeah, that's pretty big. And then there's some big ideas on the bottom. A really small print. It was easier to see it on my phone, but this says, "Can you read that, Emily?"
We can't hear you, Neil. Emily.
I'm sorry, can you hear us now, Pallavi?
Yes, it is better. We can
All
hear
right,
you.
thank you for the heads up. We lost the sound from the computer. So we'll go back. We were talking about the big idea. Repeat that. Did you hear the big idea, Pallavi, or
No,
does
we
anyone
just
need to read?
lost it when Emily was describing, when you asked Emily to read the note below. That's where we
Okay.
lost.
So read that note again, Emily, but do it a little slower.
Big ideas. I think that kids should have their own national president and government because adults get to vote and have the chance to do a lot more stuff than kids. Kids should be over 10 to be president or work in the government, but get a job, you have to be over 7. We need kids to have their own rights.
And you were saying that kids should definitely not be
I
president?
do not agree. Yeah, over 10 would be like my age, and some people my age shouldn't be president.
What do you
A
think?
lot of people my age shouldn't be president.
What do you think kids would do if they were president?
They're gonna like make it illegal to like not watch Skibbity Toilet or have a Minecraft account or something.
So you're now going to have to explain for all the old people watching what is Skibbity Toilet.
I haven't even watched it, but
Yeah.
like I guess it's like a show on YouTube that's categorized as brain rot, and it's about like these like toilets with heads coming out of them, and they need to like fight like these like cameramen and TV men who are basically just cameras and TVs and stuff with legs. I don't really know. I haven't watched it, but
Skibbity Toilet is like a YouTube shorts or YouTube series of videos.
I don't know.
Are you familiar with Skibbity Toilet, Pallavi?
No, I'm hearing it for
No.
the first time.
There is
and
something.
Thank you, Emily, for explaining. A lot of us need to be, need to know about it.
There's some kind of YouTube series where these are like anthropomorphized toilets interacting with the world is the best way I can describe it.
They're like fighting.
They fight,
and
apparently.
Their theme song is like Skibbity Toilet, Skibbity Skibbity Toilet.
But you've never watched it.
I've never watched.
But you know the theme song.
Yeah, I've heard it.
Pallavi says it's a whole new world. And to your earlier point, Dr. Tachi says a lot of older people shouldn't be president either.
Yeah.
There might be some people in mind.
With like dementia shouldn't be president.
People with dementia. Anyone in particular that you're thinking about, or
like I don't know.
Pradya says the sound is low again. Pallavi, I'm going to ask you to keep an eye on that. Is the sound okay?
Seems okay to me.
Okay, great. Just making sure. So this is the Land of Giants page, and so again, this is it's really interesting. You have to pull apart the section to be able to really look at it. Here's an interesting piece. Online, everything is a big deal. Read that first paragraph if you don't mind.
Picture this. You're hanging out and scrolling when your best friend sends you a TikTok. It's funny. You smile and give it a like and then message back. What's your go-to response? Dead? Cackling? A skull emoji? Oh, I send skull emojis.
You send skull emojis?
Yeah.
To indicate what?
Like dying from laughter.
Dying from laughter. And what's DED? Dead.
Probably just means dead. Like dead from laughter.
Dead from laughter.
I don't know.
I've
never seen anybody send this.
So if you sent any of
This
these,
person's probably like a boomer.
You're already an expert in internet hyperbole or using super dramatic words to describe things that are only sort of funny or surprising or adorable or anything else. So there's the whole article about the use of emojis in response to things that people get. Are you seeing, Pallavi, actually you teach college students. Have you seen any change? How long have you been teaching, first of all?
I've been teaching at Towson since 2018, but I've been teaching college courses since 2013.
And have you seen a evolution in the way students communicate, write, speak? Has it crept into their academic work?
Not as much in academic work, I would say. But one big change I noticed before, I would see students having conversations much more among themselves before the classes started. Gradually, it's like they usually interact with others on phone, or they're quieter before the class starts. And yes, and one thing that I did notice, we do have student evaluations of based on how we teach and others. And one semester particularly, it was, I had a student evaluation which was a lot of things used in emojis. So I had to take the emojis and Google what it meant. It was thankfully all good. But
Wow.
but yeah, that's the way they express appreciation sometimes.
We definitely, there's a whole glossary of emojis out there if people want to get into it. Dr. Tachi says she's an expert. She uses the skull all the time.
Oh,
I've never used that. I would never even think of using a skull to express.
I use the skull and then the like sobbing emoji.
Skull and sobbing. What does that mean?
It's like well, the skull is like dead from laughter. Then the sobbing emoji, it's like just somebody being like, and then there's like tears streaming down their face, and it means like you're like crying from laughter.
Crying from laughter.
And then you use the hand up to be like, this is so funny. I don't know. And then like the praying emoji, you're like, oh my God, save me from this funny. I do not know.
I'm going to quote our friend Ron Thomas. This is a master class in emojis among the Gen Alpha set, right? You're Gen Alpha, Emily?
I guess, technically.
Technically, but you said you were not Gen Alpha, that you were more.
In 2013, the year I was born, is the first year of Gen Alpha.
Yeah.
So I do not associate with the people born in like 2020 who are also Gen Alpha.
So you think you're more like Gen Y?
Gen Z.
Gen Z.
Gen Y is millennial.
Gen Y is millennial. That's true. So let's see what else we have in the New York Times for Kids. Again, in this very strange, the way they did the layout, you have to pull apart each page. It's not like going through a regular newspaper. That's making a bit of a mess on my desk here. But this is actually an interesting layout, interesting discussion. It's almost impossible to imagine $1 billion. This sphere with these dots represents $1 billion. $1 billion for Austin Powers fans. That was a movie reference. That's okay. Before your time.
Hey.
It was. But I mean, you didn't see me on camera, but if you did, you see me doing the Austin Powers thing. But each of these dots represents, do you remember what it was, Emily? Was it $10,000? $10,000. And they kind of make it a point. So this little group of dots here represents $1 million. It doesn't look like much here, does it? Fewer than 7% of Americans have this level of wealth. This little dot here is $420,000, the median price of a house in the United States. So it just gives you a sense of how to get perspective on things. This is the huge issue from the New York Times for Kids, and it's trying to show what is huge. You would need 2 of these pages to represent the $2 billion in tickets sold for whose tour?
Taylor Swift's.
Taylor Swift, right?
Yeah.
And you also said, what was the other, you said something else about her yesterday. Her net worth? Or
her net worth, well, last year, about a year ago in like April 2024, it was measured at like 1.1 billion. So it's probably more.
So it's about the size of that sphere. Is your daughter a Taylor Swift fan, Pallavi?
She was, but I think it keeps evolving. She loved Taylor Swift at one time, I think around Emily's age. But
Emily's giving, so what emoji would you be giving right now if you were responding to that, Emily?
I wouldn't give an emoji.
You wouldn't give an emoji?
No, I only use like 2 emojis.
You only use 2 emojis, that's all?
Yeah.
But you were shaking your head a second ago. Disappointment?
Mm-hmm.
Sad?
Disappointed.
But there are other artists that you like too.
Yeah, but
Who else?
Taylor Swift is still my favorite artist.
She's still your favorite, but who else do you like?
Like Gracie Abrams.
She opened for Taylor Swift, right?
Yeah, I saw her.
Yeah. When Emily went to see Taylor Swift in concert in Toronto last year, and Gracie Abrams opened. Who else do you like?
Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah.
Olivia Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Like all the basic artists, but.
And Chapel Roan?
Yeah.
That's kind of your top 4?
I guess.
Cool. So this is a little bit more in terms of how to imagine. This is something actually, Pallavi, I know for journalism, I mean, this is something that people think about and write about. How do you make numbers relatable to people? I always find things in the New York Times for kids that really adults could use to help them understand the news.
I agree with you. So the first thing that I do, because I teach news reporting, I tell my students what are the numbers. So think of yourself for a moment as the audience or the reader, something that is making you going to read the news or something that you're just going to scroll past ahead. So what numbers or what is it that is going to make you keep going and reading? So that's where they start with the numbers, and numbers are important.
And you need to find ways to make it help people relate to the number, especially when you're talking about budgets and cuts and population and that type of thing.
Absolutely. That's doing statistics and doing data, including data in news it could be difficult, especially representing and framing it correctly.
Yeah.
But it's a very important part of news.
This is one way of doing that. This little dot here is actually the $10,000, what many American families spend on food in a year for enough to buy enough to buy a Nintendo Switch for all 28 kids in your homeroom. That's interesting. So you get some equivalencies.
26.
What's that? 26. So a little less than that.
And it's relatable. Like, this is relatable.
Yeah. Kaveri says, I'm loving this conversation. Kaveri, thank you very much. And Dr. Tachi says, nice musical taste, Emily.
Oh, thank you.
So Emily appreciates that. The back page of this, to polish off this cupcake, you'll have to throw a party. What was that, Emily?
Can we make this?
Can we make
There's
this?
a recipe on the bottom. There's
a recipe on the bottom to make this cupcake. But first of all, that's in an actual size, Pallavi. This is again like
isn't that big.
This is my hand. So this cupcake is
the size of a normal cake. Well, maybe a bit bigger, but
that looks big.
So if you had a big cupcake.
So this is to polish off this cupcake, you'll have to throw a party. Every year, kids face a big birthday decision, cake or cupcakes. But maybe a better question is, why not both? Bake up this colossal cupcake for your next big bash. Just make sure you invite enough people. It can feed up to 20. Emily, I did share with folks that we're taking next week off because we have your birthday party.
Yeah.
What did you choose? Cake or cupcake?
Well, so we're going to a cake decorating place where we're just going to decorate like a bunch of smaller cakes. So we're just going to have a slice of your own cake that you decorated for the actual cake. Didn't
we do cupcakes last year?
We did. We went to Nothing But Cakes and got like small cakes.
Small individual cakes.
Yeah.
Right. Which is good because it gives people choices. But yeah, there's a whole recipe on the bottom. You need 3 boxes of cake mix, 2 9-inch round cake pans, 3 cans of frosting.
It's fine.
To put this together.
We could still make this.
That's a lot.
I don't care.
The world's largest fire hydrant, the world's largest mailbox, and the world's largest pistachio in Alamogordo, New Mexico. I don't think you can eat it though. Bruh. That's another for folks watching at home. What was that, Emily? Bruh. You get a lot of bras at home? Anyone else hear that a lot? Deborah says, thank you, Emily. You've given your dad a run for his money on this hosting spot. What do you think, Emily? You think you could host the show?
Yeah. Here, give me the camera.
Okay. So
Say
what?
something.
Say something.
Okay. You're the world's largest mailbox. Yeah, I'm not good at this.
Well, you can learn, right? Although you want to do your impression, what do I say all the time?
I don't remember. I haven't.
You don't have the mask.
Up.
You have the mask in front of you. What? Blah blah blah.
Hello and welcome to Sree's Sunday New York Times Read Along, live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and the Digimentors website. Oh wait, and YouTube.
And YouTube.
Yeah.
All right. See, you could do the opening. Maybe I'll have Emily record the opening from now on. That might be a thought. All right, let's see what else we have. I think we have 1 or 2 more pages. And I am folding this page right, so I'm just going to put that on the ground.
And there it stays for like 2 months.
No, it won't stay for 2 months. But maybe. Let's see here. What does Big E? Oh, there's 2 pages in here. So what does Big Eden mean? It's all relative. Could a whale swallow you whole? That's interesting. Actual size. I have another actual size thing of a tiger paw.
Oh.
So you want to put your hand on that? Almost the same size.
It's about the same size.
Interesting. And Arya says Emily is doing great, keeping the audience engaged.
Yay. Yay.
Yay. I'm sure she's saying thank you on the inside.
Yeah.
How the world's most impressively massive things measure up side by side. So this is the Kuala Lumpur. No, this is Burj Khalifa. Have you been to Dubai, Pallavi?
Just for a layover. That was several, I think more than 10 years ago. But didn't step out of the airport. That's something I do want to explore, my family and I.
Absolutely. I did actually go to Dubai last year. Did not make it to the Burj Khalifa, but I did go I did some. I went in my free time. I went to a museum, the Museum of the Future. I did some dune buggying, dune bashing, they call it. 4x4.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, some interesting stuff.
I was at the air store.
And Dr. Tachi has a comment. This is an interesting thing. I'm a member of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and we call members of Omega Psi Phi fraternity the bros, because they're like our brothers in a sense.
That's crazy.
The bros. Emily says that's crazy, Dr. Tachi. But Dr. Tachi says you're doing an amazing job.
Yeah, thank you.
I should clarify. That's crazy.
Oh.
Translate that. What does that mean when you say that's crazy?
I don't know. It's just like a response to something.
Does that mean that Dr. Tachi is crazy?
No, it doesn't.
Does that mean is that like good?
It just is. I mean, I guess. Like, you're like, oh, I did something that's crazy. I don't know. It's just something that people say.
For folks of a certain age, you might remember that, bad meant good. That's bad. In my day, that's what people said. If something was good, they say that's bad.
What?
Help me out here, Dr. Tachi, Pallavi. You remember that?
Yeah, crazy. I think
say
crazy.
Something's bad.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's crazy. That means, it's, I think now it's used more as a positive, in a positive tone.
It's crazy good.
Yeah, it's crazy good.
So as a reminder, folks, we're reviewing the New York Times for Kids. It's a special print-only section from the New York Times. It comes out once a month. You can get that from our website before noon today through a special arrangement with the New York Times. So I definitely encourage folks to do that. I will put that in the ticker again, and I'll also share it in the chat in case folks are watching. Give me 1 second to do that here. Emily, you can hold the phone for a bit. Point out some things on that page while I take care of this.
You about 5 feet tall, or is it 6? Yeah, 5 feet tall. Yeah. Are you 5 feet tall? A green anaconda is about 30 feet long. The world's biggest and heaviest snake is a vicious predator. So, yeah. A blue whale is up to 100 feet long. Wow.
And how long is this cruise ship?
Cruise ship? Wait, where is it?
This one. How long is that?
Oh, what? 1,198 feet long.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Longer than a football field.
Can we go there?
On a cruise ship?
On that cruise ship.
Well, is that this is Icon of the Seas, embarked on its maiden voyage last year at about 5 times the size of the Titanic. 5 times the size of the Titanic.
What?
That's pretty impressive. That's pretty big. All right, let's see what else we have. Oh, we have this one on the back. Another interesting piece, jumbo tires. So if anyone has been to Canada and seen the oil sands, and this I explained this to Emily last night, these are not regular tires for cars, obviously. These are made from not even monster trucks, like ridiculously large trucks that you can find in Canada. Here, Emily, hold this. Take a look at the different parts of that page. And what is this at the bottom here? Make the dough.
I'm pretty sure it's how to make it.
Really?
So, who wants to learn how to make like a big tire? Make the dough. Just like making a cake, making a tire starts with mixing all the ingredients. It's like rubber and carbon powder in a giant mixture. Call in reinforcements. Some of the rubber has steel cards be pressed onto it, forming a belt that will help the final product stand up to tough jobs. 3, cut it up. These giant tires can be 50 feet around. A single strip of rubber that long will be much too big and heavy for a person to maneuver, so it snips the rubber into 50 parts.
So here is an example. I'm going to put it on the screen.
Oh, wow.
For folks, and show you that this tire, and I don't even know if this is the biggest one, but you see that there's a person who's probably about, you can keep the phone facing that way, that's a person next to a tire from a truck that's used in the oil sands in Canada. I've actually been there and I've seen that, and you can almost see from the picture here that that's about the same size. So that's a pretty impressive tire size, if you ask me. Certainly, if you get a flat on that, that'll be challenging. But this is step inside a factory that makes jumbo tires. What do we have? We have one more page, I think, left to go. Let's close this out. This is. We'll start with this. We'll start this one first. The universe is expanding. What is this about, Emily?
Well, I mean, this part is how the universe is expanding. You can solve huge problems. How I became a philosopher, the actual size of a colossal squid eye.
So that's a squid eye right there. Very interesting. And a couple of comments. Rose quotes you and says, "What?" That when you said something to me earlier. I don't know when you said that.
Oh, yeah.
But classic response. And my mom says, "Emily, you're doing great."
Thank you.
Can you give Grandma a quick hi?
Hi.
See, that's what I do every week. I say hi to her on the show. So if I don't call her, at least I said hi to her, right? And Dr. Tachi says, yes, the Icon of the Seas leaves from Miami. And Deborah says, look at those colors. So this issue does have some color, which is great. The back page. And folks, thank you for staying with us. We went a little bit longer today, in part because the New York Times for Kids was such a complex issue, but also because we had Emily as our guest. So we wanted to enjoy this a little bit. 37 tiny stories about big things. Emily, can you pick 3 of these that were interesting to you?
All right. Loudest burp. Okay,
so this is loudest burp. You get to read that.
Okay. The loudest burp ever recorded came in at 112.4 decibels, as loud as a jackhammer.
Why was that interesting to you?
Because you found louder.
Because apparently I've burped louder than that. And if anyone believes that, I have some oceanfront property in Missouri that I'd like to sell you. Emily, I don't burp that loud.
Oceanfront property in Missouri?
Exactly. If you believe something like that, then you'll believe that I have oceanfront property in Missouri. And I'll sell it to you for $100.
That's actually kind of a steal.
Yeah.
Property.
Well, I get $100 and it's fake.
Well, yeah, it's property, but it's not ocean.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. My
So
aunt
it's
is watching.
$100 for a house.
Neela McKim is watching from Toronto. So thank you, Neela Masi, for watching. And Dr. Tachi says, kids will tell all of your business. Are you telling all of my business, Emily? We still have two more that you need to share from here. What more? What other examples do you want to share?
The Great Wall of China is 12,400 miles.
Yeah. The length of the Great Wall of China, according to UNESCO, it could wrap all the way around the perimeter of the continental United States. And then one more. Which one?
Onomatopoeia.
Okay.
I don't know.
A word that sounds like what it means, like meow, clang, or boom.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that is the New York Times for Kids. It's kind of made a mess of it because I had to pull all the pages together. So we'll have to kind of put it back together. Emily's going to try and do that.
You did great, Emily.
Thank you.
So, Emily, while I have you, what are your thoughts about looking at the newspaper?
It's pretty cool. It's easier to look at than on the computer.
That's an interesting thought. A lot of people have stopped subscribing to hard copy newspapers.
Well, I mean, this one is on like a phone or a computer. It's a lot easier to look at the New York Times and to play the games.
The games. Which games do you play?
Well, I tried to play Wordle, but I do it on Mom's phone, and we have the same account, so you always play the Wordle first.
Pro tip for parents who want to keep their kids from messing up their Wordle scores: play the game at midnight, stay up late, play it before they wake up in the morning, and then they can't mess with your stuff.
But one time I actually did do it, and I got it right.
One time she did do it. I forgot to play. She did it and kept the streak going. So thank you for that. But yeah, the other thing that's interesting about reading the paper that we find, this New York Times for Kids was an exception. But for the hard copy, what we find is when you flip through the pages, you'll read articles you weren't planning on reading. It'll just jump out at you. Like you'll kind of see it. We call it serendipity. It's kind of random. Whereas if you're looking online, you'll look at certain sections. Like I always go to the sports section and like the book section.
Of course, the book section.
I like the book review.
You don't read.
I like the book review, Emily. And I do read. I just read mostly articles and news items. I don't sit down and curl up with books a lot. But the idea is that when you flip through a paper, you'll see.
Our book that you're going to read.
Except for your book that we're going to read, which I made reference to earlier in the show.
I heard.
Were you watching in the living room?
No, I was in the bathroom.
But you could hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to say that Dr. Tachi says this was so much fun. Bravo, Emily. And she thinks you're hilarious.
Thank you.
So I will ask folks who are watching, who are still there, what do you think about Emily as being a guest on the New York Times Read-Along in the future? You think she should make a return appearance? What do folks think? Pallavi, what do you think? Should she come back?
Absolutely, and maybe have some kid guests as well.
We may have maybe we have other guests. If they have in this case, I mean, usually when we read the newspaper, we'll read out the headlines and describe it to folks. But if someone else has the New York Times for Kids, maybe they can look at it themselves. Pradnya, I'm looking at you in Barcelona. I know you're traveling, but maybe your daughter might want to be on the show one day. Just a thought. And Dr. Tachi says we'd love to have Emily back. Kavri says bring Emily back. We're getting a couple of votes here, so you might have to come back, Emily. But with that, we will bring this show to a close. I want to thank everyone for joining us. And we'll see if I can turn the camera around real quick. There we go. So there's
like
Emily, and there we go. So Emily, thank you for joining us on the show.
Yeah.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
Were you nervous?
Thank you, Emily. You did great.
Pallavi says thank you. Stefan says, I'm so sorry I had to miss Emily. We're all very proud of you, and I will catch the replay. I simply overslept. Hey, Stefan, understandable. No worries at all. As I mentioned earlier, if folks want to watch the beginning, they can watch the show from the beginning on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Instagram, well, not Instagram, and our website. Instagram, I'll upload a short clip for folks to watch, and you can watch the show on our website. And again, remember, you can get the New York Times for Kids from our website before noon Eastern time. You can download it there. Deborah says, thanks, Emily. Maybe bring on Pradnya's kids. I mentioned that earlier. And Rose says, great job, Emily, as well. With that, we'll see everyone, not next week, but in 2 weeks. Thank you again for spending your Sunday morning with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Pallavi, it was great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.